The only light in the small, spare bedroom came from the cool blue glow of a fresh, empty code editor. Chloe Mitchell stared at the blinking cursor on the blank screen. It was a stark contrast to the thousands of lines of elegant, intricate code that had lived in her previous project, code that was now gone, erased from the main repository, its backups purged in a frantic, desperate attempt to contain the damage. She took a slow sip of water, the condensation cool against her skin. This was her new reality. Ground Zero. 6 months ago, her world had been a different universe. It was painted in the vibrant, energetic hues of Innovate Labs, a buzzing Austin startup where she was the undisputed star. At 28, Chloe was a coding prodigy. She could hold an entire, complex system architecture in her head, her fingers flying across the keyboard as if translating a symphony only she could hear. Her project, Ether, was her masterpiece, a sophisticated data visualization platform that was poised to revolutionize how analysts understood consumer behavior. She remembered the meeting like it was yesterday. The conference room smelled of whiteboard markers and ambition. Chloe, Ether is incredible, Mark, her project manager, had said, his voice filled with genuine awe. But the investor demo is in 3 weeks. We need to start implementing a testing suite. Unit tests, integration tests. The venture capitalists are going to ask about our stability and bug squashing protocols. Chloe had leaned back in her chair, a confident smile playing on her lips. Mark, with all due respect, why would we need a test? The code is clean. It's efficient. I built it. I know every single function, every dependency. Writing tests now would just slow us down. It's bureaucracy, not progress. David, a quieter, more methodical senior developer, had chimed in. Chloe, it's not about not trusting you. It's about future-proofing. What happens when we onboard more developers? What about edge cases? Edge cases. Chloe had countered, her tone light but firm. David, I've already handled the edge cases. I've been stress testing it manually for weeks. It's rock solid. Spending 2 weeks writing tests for code that already works is a waste of resources we don't have. Let's focus on the new features for the demo. She had been so persuasive, so utterly convinced of her own infallibility. Mark had reluctantly agreed. Chloe was the genius, after all. Who were they to question her process? The weeks that followed were a blur of creative frenzy. Chloe was an artist, and the codebase was her canvas. She added features with breathtaking speed, her confidence growing with every new module. The app was beautiful, responsive, and clever. She felt a thrill every time she ran it, watching the data flow into stunning, interactive graphs. She was building the future, and she was doing it unencumbered by what she saw as the training wheels of testing. The day of the investor demo arrived. The office was electric with nervous energy. Suits and ties mingled with hoodies and jeans. Chloe, dressed in her best professional attire, stood at the back of the room, her heart swelling with pride as Mark began his presentation. The large screen at the front lit up with the Ether login page. This, Mark announced, is the future of market intelligence. He entered the demo credentials and clicked login. The screen went white for a second, and then, instead of the beautiful dashboard, a catastrophic error message filled the screen. It was a cascade failure, a stack trace of doom that scrolled on, a public autopsy of her code. A cold dread, sharper than any ice, shot down Chloe's spine. Her breath hitched. Mark, flustered, tried to refresh. The same error. Murmurs rippled through the investor group. Must be a temporary glitch with the demo server, Mark said, forcing a laugh that sounded more like a choke. From the back, Chloe whispered, no. It was a database connection. A simple, stupid function she had rewritten 2 days ago to be more efficient. She had changed a connection string parameter, sure it was an improvement. She had run the feature she was working on, and it worked perfectly. She never thought to check the login sequence again. Why would she? It had worked yesterday. It was a single line of code. One line she had been too proud, too rushed, and too arrogant to test. David rushed to his laptop, his fingers flying. He pulled up the logs, his face pale. He found the issue in under a minute, the exact line, the exact error. An error that a simple unit test would have caught instantly. He looked across the room at Chloe, his eyes not angry, but filled with a profound, devastating pity. The demo was a catastrophic failure. The investors left with tight smiles and firm handshakes that promised nothing. The energy in the office deflated, replaced by a heavy, silent disappointment. An hour later, Chloe was in the CEO's office. Sarah, the CEO, was a stern but fair woman. She wasn't yelling. Her disappointment was quiet, which was worse. Chloe, Sarah said, steepling her fingers. Ether is dead. The board won't greenlight it after that display. The trust is gone. More importantly, the bug you introduced corrupted the primary development database. Because we had no integration tests running in our deployment pipeline, it was pushed straight to our demo environment. I can fix it, Chloe stammered, her voice small. I can restore from backup. The backup from last night was taken after your change was merged, Sarah said calmly. The one from the day before is too old. We've lost critical data from other teams. The time and money to untangle this, it's not feasible. We're shutting the project down. Permanently. Chloe was not fired. Sarah believed in second chances. But she was being transferred off all core development duties and onto a maintenance team, fixing legacy bugs for the foreseeable future. It was a professional purgatory. The star developer was now a cautionary tale. For 2 weeks, she went through the motions. The shame was a physical weight on her shoulders. Every whispered conversation felt like it was about her. Every look felt like an accusation. The code she had loved now felt like a tomb. She couldn't look at a line of code without seeing that error message. She finally mustered the courage to quit. She had no job lined up. Her savings would last a few months, maybe. She packed up her apartment, said a quiet goodbye to the city that had been her stage, and moved back to her quieter hometown, into her old bedroom that her kind, worried parents had kept for her. And that's how she found herself here, in the silence, facing the blank screen. The first day, she did nothing but read. She read about test-driven development. She read about agile methodologies. She read about the infamous Knight Capital incident, where a lack of proper testing led to a $440 million loss in 45 minutes. Her failure felt small in comparison, but the principle was the same. Arrogance, negligence, a disregard for proven, safe practices. On the second day, she opened her laptop. She created a new project directory. She named it Phoenix. And she wrote her first test. It was a simple test for a function that didn't even exist yet, a function that would add two numbers together. The test failed, of course, colored an angry red in the testing framework. Seeing that red was not a trigger for trauma, but a challenge. It was a guide. She then wrote the simplest possible function to make the test pass. The screen turned green, a small, quiet victory. Day by day, line by line, she began to rebuild. Not just her skills, but her entire philosophy. She was no longer an artist, she was an engineer, an architect, and a good architect doesn't just design a beautiful building. They run stress tests, they check the foundation, they ensure it can withstand a storm. She built a simple to-do application. But this time, it was different. For every tiny piece of functionality, she wrote the test first. She considered every edge case David had mentioned. What if the user tries to add an empty task? What if they try to mark a non-existent task as complete? The tests forced her to think about her code from the perspective of its weaknesses, not just its strengths. It was slow, painfully slow. The old Chloe would have built the entire app in a day. The new Chloe spent 3 days just writing tests and the most basic scaffolding. But when she finally ran the full application, it worked flawlessly. There were no surprises. The tests were her safety net, and they allowed her to refactor and improve the code with confidence. Weeks turned into a month. Phoenix grew from a to-do app into a more complex personal project management tool. Her portfolio was no longer just a collection of finished products, it was a repository of impeccably tested, beautifully documented code. It was during this time that she mustered the courage to reach out to David. She sent him a simple email. David, I know I don't deserve your time, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. You were right, and I was arrogant and wrong. I'm attaching a link to a personal project I've been working on. I thought you might be interested in the test coverage. It's 98%. I hope you're well, Chloe. She didn't expect a reply. But a day later, her phone buzzed. Chloe, it's David. Her heart leapt into her throat. David, hi, thank you for calling. I looked at your project, he said, his voice neutral. The code is impeccable. The test suite is better than ours here at Innovate. A wave of relief washed over her so powerfully she had to sit down. I learned my lesson, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I know you did, he replied. Listen, I left Innovate a month ago. I'm leading a new team at Veritas Solutions. We're building secure, enterprise-level data tools. It's boring, complex, and stability is everything. We need developers who understand that brilliant code is useless if it's not reliable. I've been fighting to get budget for a dedicated quality-focused developer. When I saw your project, I thought of you. Chloe couldn't speak. It's a junior position, David continued. A step down from your old title and, frankly, the pay isn't what you used to make. But you'd be our testing and integrity guru. You'd be the one ensuring what happened with Ether never happens to us. You'd be the voice of reason. A junior position. It was a humbling offer. The old Chloe would have been insulted. The new Chloe saw it for what it was, a priceless opportunity for redemption. David, she finally managed, I would be honored. I don't care about the title or the pay. I just want to build things the right way. 3 weeks later, she was in a new city, sitting at a new desk. Her first task was to review a pull request from a senior developer. She ran the automated tests, which passed. But as she manually reviewed the code, Her new, disciplined eye caught something, a potential race condition in a high-frequency data fetch. It was subtle, the kind of thing that would never show up in a demo, but would cause mysterious, intermittent failures in production under heavy load. She didn't feel arrogant. She felt responsible. She scheduled a meeting with the developer, a man named Robert who had twice her experience. Robert, she began, her voice respectful but firm. I love the efficiency of this function. It's really clever. I'm just thinking about a potential race condition here. She carefully walked him through her reasoning, suggesting a simple locking mechanism. Robert stared at the code, then at her. He didn't get defensive. He nodded slowly. You're absolutely right. I completely missed that. Good catch, Chloe. A really good catch. As he updated his code, Chloe leaned back. The ghost of the demo day finally loosened its grip. She wasn't the brilliant star who had fallen. She wasn't the disgraced developer starting over. She was an engineer. She was a professional. And she had just saved her team from a future catastrophe. She looked at her screen, at the green, all tests passing, badge, and for the first time in a long time, she smiled. She had started with nothing but a painful lesson and a blank screen. Now, she had everything she truly needed.